Okay, in this lesson, this is Unit 6, and we're starting Lesson 28, the first part of it, and that is on page 184, and it is in our book with the numbers on it. So, on page 184, this is what we're seeing. First, I want to show you, though, from the other book, you don't have to turn to that, I just want to show you the parent page to give you an overview of what we're going to be learning in this lesson. We've been talking about shapes. We talked about how to put shapes together to make another shape. Now we're going to talk about dividing shapes. So we're talking about fractions. And so we're going to be talking about a whole when it's all together. We're going to be talking about when we divide it into halves, or half of the whole. Or we're going to be talking about that makes two equal parts. So we're going to be learning the word halves or half. Also, we're going to be talking about dividing it into 4 equal parts and talking about fourths or 1/4 of the whole, 4 equal parts. They're going to be talking about whether something is divided into equal parts, because they have to learn to know that it has to be 2 equal parts. These two are 2 equal parts. These two are 2 equal parts. This one is not. So this would not be dividing it into halves. The parts have to be equal. On the back of the parent page, you also have instructions for how to work with these to practice folding them in halves or into fourths. So that would be a good exercise to do with them. Okay, back to this book. As I said, we're going to talk about dividing something into equal parts. If you took this shape and you wanted to divide it into equal parts, well, if you have a piece of paper, you can take it and you can divide it into halves in different ways. And if you practice this on your own, it will help you to understand better. Okay, we're getting our edges even and going to the sides and folding out. Now, I have divided this into halves. Halves mean how many equal parts? 2. So if you had a candy bar and you wanted to divide it with a friend or with your brother or sister, you divide it into 2 equal parts. One of you gets this part and the other gets this part, and you would cut it down the middle. Or if you want a piece of paper to draw on and you only have one piece of paper and you say, let's divide it into half. So you fold it in the middle and one person gets one part and the other gets the other. Now, would it be fair if I folded it like this, and this is one person's part, and this little bit over here is my part? No, you want the parts to be the same. So this would be divided into halves. One part is 1/2. Both parts together are 2 halves. When we put it back together, we have 2 halves. So we go from half, the plural is halves. Okay, there's another way that we could divide it. Instead of dividing it that way, we could divide it the long way, the horizontal way, the hot dog way, some people call it. So we put the edges together, and it's hard to do with one hand. And again, we have 1/2 and the other half. One person gets this half, one person gets this half. Okay, and again, they're equal parts. Now, these parts look different from the other because of the way we turn the paper. But if they were measured out, they would be getting the same amount. If this were a cake and you divide it, whether you divide it this way or you divide it this way, you're getting the same amount of cake because you have divided it into halves. Okay, so if we want to, in your book, go ahead and divide that into half. And I'm going to put the line down here. And this would be 1/2, and this would be another. Now, my line's not going to be exactly half because I did not measure it. We would need to measure it to make sure. But when I divide it in halves, if I want to make sure, if I would cut this out and I cut it down the middle, put this part on top, it would come out even. It's like when we were doing the hexagon yesterday. and we were seeing how many pieces to make a hexagon. If we wanted 2 pieces, that meant we were dividing the hexagon into halves. And the 2 pieces that would divide it into halves were the trapezoid. Okay, the trapezoid, 2 different pieces. Trapezoids are the same size, so it would be dividing it into 2 equal pieces. This divided into equal pieces. Now, I could have done it the other way around, as we did with the paper, and drawn my line this way. So one person gets this piece, the other person gets this piece. So I divided it. This is 1/2. This is the other half. We have 2 halves. So we divided it into, I'm write it over here, it's easier to write on this side. We divided it into halves. Okay, if I get one of those pieces, that's my piece there, and it's out of 2 pieces. I get 1 out of 2 pieces. This one right here would be 1/2. If I could shade it in, that would be 1/2 of it. Okay, we can also divide it into 4 halves. Okay, suppose it's not just you and your brother or sister, or you and a friend. It's not. What if it's 4 different people, you and 3 other people? Each one wants a part. So you're going to divide it into 4s. Well, if we take the papers that we had before, this paper where we divided it into halves, now I can take that and I can divide that again. And I get 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces, because each person needs a piece. Now, are the pieces bigger or smaller? Of course, they're smaller because you divided that into more pieces, so more people are eating it, so you're going to get less cake if it's a cake, or a smaller piece of paper if you're dividing a piece of paper. So, but it is divided into 4 parts. Another way we could have divided it. Okay, let me draw on here. This is what we did to that paper there. We divided it into half, and then we took it and we divided it into half this way, so that we get 1, 2, 3, 4 equal pieces. That's one way we could do it. Okay, let's look at the other paper that we divided. Pick it up. Okay, here's our paper that we divided, and we could divide it this way now, or we can divide it this way. I can get the edges to meet. This may not come out exact because I'm having a hard time doing it with one hand. Okay, and if we open it up, then we now have 1, 2, 3, 4 equal pieces. Okay, now the pieces are shaped differently now, but they would be the same size of piece as we have here. You would get the same amount. They're not the same shape, but they're the same amount. So you would get 1/4 of those. Now, if I did it on my paper, it would look if I divided the way I divided that piece of paper, I would have this down the middle, and I would be dividing this side and this side, so that I would have 1, 2, 3, 4 equal pieces, and they would be long pieces. Okay, so one piece would be 1/4. that would be a fourth of it. This would be a fourth if my pieces were even. They're not quite even. This would be a fourth. And this would be a fourth. So I can say I divided it into fourths. And I put a TH with the word four. Not four, put a TH, fourths. Okay, I should not have left space there. Okay, and if I get one piece, that's my piece, I get 1 out of the 4 pieces, 1/4. And that's how I divide it into 4 equal pieces. Okay, let's look at page 185. And here, instead of using a rectangle, we are talking about a circle. Okay, how can we divide a circle into 4 equal parts? Well, it's basically the same thing as what we did with the rectangle. First, we're going to divide it down the middle. And so this could be a pie. And so you get half of a pie, and the other person gets a half of a pie. So here I divided it in halves, but it told me to divide it into 4 equal parts. So now, what if I divided it down this way? Does that piece look like that piece? It doesn't, does it? Because those 2 pieces are not equal. So I can't divide it down the side. When I divide a pie, did you ever notice that people always cut through the middle of the pie? So this time I'm going to have to cut. I divided it through the middle of the pie, and this way I'm going to go through the middle of the pie. So now if I would cut them out and lay the pieces on top of each other, and my drawing was exact, I would have 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces of pie. Or it could be a pizza, okay? And you want, when you divide the pizza, everybody wants the same size piece. You don't want someone getting a piece that's bigger than the others, okay? So each one of these is a fourth. That's a fourth. This is a fourth. This is a fourth. And this is a fourth. Or I divided it into fourths. Kind of a hard word to say, isn't it? Okay, and if this is my piece over here, I got 1/4 of the pie. Okay, and that's our lesson for this time. Don't forget to be doing your 30 minutes of iReady. Have a good day.